We are not a good industry at telling ourselves. Why not tell that positive story? We are professional, articulate businesses out there operating in a very complex society. We're helping feed the world.
If something happens somewhere in part of the world and then we are impacted, so how can we decouple ourselves from these input factors?
If I'm going to use one word, it's going to be volatile. Grain marketing, pricing goes up and down.
Yeah.
The live sheep export, that's a lot of pressure, and we have to be very professional business people and manage that risk somehow.
The divide became very apparent through the Keep the Sheep campaign.
When you've got a rally like that, it's normally out of desperation. It became a political decision, not an economic one. Never. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying. You are our future. Agriculture and agribusiness in all the regional areas is a very successful and dynamic place to be and live.
Before we get started, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode of our cutting-edge contemporary conversations. Thank you. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
I'm absolutely good. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for your time today, and it's a pleasure sitting here. And we had a bit more conversation, warm-up conversation before the conversation.
Which is what happens with the market.
And thank you for your time. And could you a bit more give us a bit of background of yours and a bit of context setting who you are and your life story?
Yeah, so a bit of a life story. So I'm born and bred in the country from Northam. So from a farming family, we are 25 kilometres northeast of Northam. So as far as the Northam Shire goes, we're, if not the second last farm in the Shire on the northeast. So just to give you a bit of perspective, so we're right on the border of Goomalling Shire and Cunderdin Shire and Northam Shire. So we're as far east as you can get in the Shire. Third generation farmer there, Broadacre Farm, and probably fifth generation Australian. So there's a lot of history there and a lot of genetics with that. But my background is I grew up there, so farming family. I went away to school. I ended up in banking and finance. So I've always done the books for the farm. So ever since I was 18, Dad loved farming and great farmer, didn't like bookwork. So as soon as I learned how to do a spreadsheet, I started doing that. So I ended up in agribusiness finance. So I worked for one of the majors. I won't do any product placement here. One of the majors and an agribusiness banker. So I ended up as a senior agribusiness banker. So I looked after the bigger end of the market, and that was across WA. So that ended up being over 20 years, and I preferred to work regionally. So that's career inhibiting in the end because I didn't want to work in Perth or Sydney or even Melbourne. So which was good. So I was going to have the tree change and go home, and that was over 10 years ago, and ended up home for a number of reasons in family. Always going to do it, so you just needed a catalyst. I did, and since then I've been involved in the farm, so I still do all the finance side. And when you say that, I don't mean to make light of it, but there's so much more. You've got OH&S, you've got single touch payroll, you've got all the different laws, compliance, and all the finance. The BAS, the GST, all that sort of stuff, the marketing.
The complete CFO role and a CMO role. Yep,
it is. So my brother's a COO, Chief Operating Officer, and I call myself the CFO. And we share the CEO role between us, as if you look at it in a corporate way. And I've also, when I moved back to town, because of my experience, I had experience in agribusiness planning, risk management, finance, and a bit of experience in insurance. So I ended up getting a job at Muresk, which was for Charles Sturt University. And so since then, I've been doing casual work for Charles Sturt University, and I'm a sessional lecturer at Curtin in agribusiness planning, risk management. So for the end, I do capstone units where they get all their learnings throughout their degree, and they'll come in and I'll get them to do a major project, and it's about how to apply all that. So that's what I do. So what that does is that keeps me involved in the industry, which I love. So you love keeping my mind active, and I've got to read up and I've got to be aware of what's going on. And I'm also involved in local government.
Lovely.
Which I think you'll tease out. I'll leave that one for you so you can tease out. I can't say everything. You've got to have room for.
Thank you. Thank you for that broad context. So growing up doing numbers for family on the farm, how would you translate that to be a banker? That knowledge of doing numbers for the farm or managing the back end of the accounting side of it, and how do you translate that knowledge, grounded and in grounding, towards banking and finance?
I think that's a really good question, because what it does is, one, when you're dealing with farming families in WA, you've got to be authentic, and you just use that word, and that's what it is. So the fact that I came from a farming family, and I grew up on the farm and I had a finance background, that gives you a lot of street credibility.
Yeah.
And you've got to be genuine. So last thing farmers want is someone pretending to know what they are or telling them what to do. So the fact that I still lived it and I had a background in it went a long way. So it was a good background, but it also worked both ways, because I dealt with the bigger farmers, and some of them are very, very good. So I could apply anything I learned from them and take it back to our farm. So it worked both ways. And that's where the genuineness came in. So it always gave you not only credibility, but it gave you authenticity and longevity.
And in the whole range of farming or the agribusiness in WA, what is your observation right now in terms of the last couple of years? Things are being tighter on the cost of production and cost of growing. So what do you see at the trends, and with the recent the Iran and US and Israel war, which is happening? What do you see that impacting the production quality here, or not quality, production levels?
Oh, it's incredible. So we've seen it. So since just in the last few years, I've always had a story to tell about something that's going on in the world. You're probably old enough to remember the global financial crisis, so that affected us. A lot of these students that I lecture can't remember it, because they're 3 years old when that happened. But there's things that have happened before and after. But at the moment, it's incredibly volatile. So if I'm going to use one word, it's going to be volatile. So in my whole career, you've had ups, you've had downs, and you can ride that, and you can get a trend analysis. Now that up and down is like that and that in a day. So everything's volatile. So grain marketing, pricing goes up and down. The live sheep export, that's a lot of pressure and probably a dying industry, and I hate to say that, but that's what's happening. But at the moment we've got the conflicts, so we have input supply. So there's 2 fertiliser ships stuck in the Middle East at the moment, and that's affecting potentially production in WA. And fuel, I mean, I think it's being played up because there's still supply and there's ships around the world. But there's production queries about supply queries, I should say, supply chain. So that's become a problem. So people are trying to secure their inputs. And also you've got pricing. So we're getting affected with supply. The supply chain's very questionable. The price volatility is incredible. So as agribusinesses and farmers, we've got to be like this. We've got to be on the ball, see what's going on in the world, not panic, and have really good plans, because going back to that word I used at the start, it's very volatile. So we can't just rely on a trend and just sort of wait until the end of the year. We have to be very professional business people and manage that risk somehow. Can't tell you how, but we've got to be aware of the risks that are there, and everyone has to be aware of it, and we have to somehow manage that.
It's always a fine balance between an economy which is self-sustaining versus dependent on the global factors. So, and if the input variables are dependent globally versus locally, what part of the equation, it's almost always if something happens somewhere in part of the world and then we are impacted. So how can we decouple ourselves? How might we, from a state point of view and then nation point of view, decouple ourselves from these input factors which are very variable in these markets?
That's a good question. So I had a conversation this morning, which was left field for me, but it was something. So we've got if I've got the terminology right, the processing the fuel plant in Kwinana from BP was closed down a couple of years ago, but the storage tanks are still there. So the conversation was, why don't the agribusinesses get together, form a cooperative, an input cooperative, to have those tanks full of diesel, So you're mitigating that risk of around the world. So those tanks are still there. The plant's decommissioned. Well, why not use those as storage? So that takes out one. The other one is a sovereign risk. We have production of fertilizer in a state, but it's a true business. I'd do the same. If they can get more for that product around the world, of course you sell it around the world. So you may need to pressure the governments into quarantining some for local production, like we've done with gas, and Sir Charles Court did with the royalties and things like that. So some of it's quarantined for WA, but that's wider than just agribusiness. That's taking the political, getting the political parties, and that's all parties, not political partisan politics, getting them involved to do that. So you're taking away that risk. So there's ways you can look at risk minimisation. One is about the inputs, about the fuel, and one is about the supply, which is a fertiliser. So that's the two of the major inputs.
And why can't, so again, there's a bigger question on fertilizer. So should the state, as in the government, control the production of part of the inputs or supply, or should not? So that's always a big question to be answered.
Yeah, I think probably not control the inputs, but quarantine some of them for local production. If the political parties deem agriculture to be an essential industry, which I believe it is, when you put in the basics, people need to be fed. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's right down the bottom. You need to be fed. So that to me becomes an essential industry. So what's one way we can help protect that? And we've got local production. So quarantine that some. So you'd probably let the producers, and again I won't mention names, probably let the producers still produce it and sell on the world market, but you've got to quarantine some for WA, and whether that's subsidised from the state government to protect that industry. I might be thinking of it simplistically, but that's just my thought.
And in terms of the, because the diversity of producers of, again in the farming and agribusiness, are ranging from small to large farms. And then there are quite a few private organizations who are coming in and buying up farms and becoming larger. So if you see the market's diversity, or what do you prefer, large farms versus or many small family farms? So between the two structures.
Actually, that's a good question. But what I've seen is generally when the big ones come in, they'll come in, a lot of them are super funds, and they've got a certain, this is how I see it, they've got a certain KPI. So you get a 5% return on capital, and it's for 10 years. So I've seen it since the 1970s, even before you were born, and I was only a baby, but I remember this. We had the corporates first came in, they came into Esperance. Those farms were there for about 10 years. So quite often those corporates, they don't come in to farm like a family farm forever and a day. They have got, for their shareholders or their private equity holders, they have got an objective, and quite often that is 10 years, see what the value of the land goes up by, 5% return on asset for those 10 years, lease it out of that, and then it's gone. So I call it the circle of life. So I'll see it like this, they'll get bigger, and then for whatever reason, and quite often I've just explained the reason, that's the end of their investment. They'll sell it off and they'll be sold off into smaller blocks, and then they'll either get bigger and then they'll get smaller again. And even when you get the family farms that get bigger, that will only last a generation or two, because you'll have different siblings that are the kids of that big family farm. And they will inevitably want to farm separately. So the challenge is to farm together. So they'll get, the family farm will go like this, get really big on the circle of life. Then they won't want to work together. Then they'll go into small blocks, and then we'll start the circle of life again and get big. So I see it, and I'm old enough to have seen it, it just keeps going around in circles. So I don't think personally I like family farms, but we're not a country hicks. We're not that farmer with a cowboy hat and a piece of corn coming out. We are professional businesses. So we just got to remember that whether we're small or large, I prefer the smaller ones, but you're going to see it all the time. You're going to have different people on that circle of life at different stages, but it's always going to be the same. They're going to get big, get small, get big, get small, and you'll see it ever and ever. That's my theory, and I can see look on your face that you've never heard that one before, but that's what I've been observing for 55 years.
That's good. On that same theory, in terms of running a farm is like a corporate, because you have that banking and finance experience, and you have that mind of counting numbers and then seeing the balance sheets and then cash flow statements and all of those things. Do you think generically, on an average, these skill sets are critical to running a for-profit rather than not for loss farming enterprise?
I think they are critical. So they don't have to have my background, but it is a professional business. And I've seen in my time in the banking that the businesses, all the ones that were left from when I started to when I finished, the businesses that were there were professional and they could survive the ups and downs. And they're all professional in their own way, in different ways. Now, quite often they've got a partnership. Generally, it's a husband and wife, and they'll have the complementing skills. One will do the operations and one will do the office work, but they're very professional. And whether we want it or not, we're getting dragged along with all the legislation. We have to be professional and very corporate style. We've got to have a corporate style mentality. Whether you believe it or not, it just ends up that way because we're getting dragged along by government policy.
Yeah. How do you see the politics of agriculture business or regions? What's the politics of regions?
Under a lot of pressure. So I'll put it in a concept, and I'll say this all the time, so I'm on public saying this. In WA, you've got, let's say 3 major mining companies, resource industry companies. They are very good. If you came to WA, anyone coming to WA, first thing you'd see on there, one of the companies, I won't mention names again, one of the companies before you even got here, before they were even in the state, 10 years before, they had these beautiful ads on TV saying how they looked after the environment, they made jobs and beautiful background music and we give our money to the pools up north and we look after the communities and all that. And because you've only got 3 major companies, they've got a very simplistic and effective messaging. With agribusiness, as you said, we've got some that are small, we've got some that are large, and we've got lots of different voices saying the thing. So as an entire industry, and when you say agribusiness, I'm from a broadacre farm, but you've got intensive farmers, you've got livestock farmers, you've got all the fruit and veg, you've got people up north. So you've got all these different voices trying to have the same market about saying how good we are, but it's not a unified voice like the resource industry. So I hope I remember your question correctly. So if we had the single voice, then we'd have a better message. But at the moment, there's all these things coming around trying to say the same thing, so the message gets lost.
Do you think, but you're represented by the peak bodies, I think WA Farmers and
PGA.
Yeah.
So even them, if the media, which is what they do, they'll go along and they'll fish for it. They'll say to West Australian farmers, what do you think? And then they'll go straight to PGA and say, what do you think? And they'll phrase the questions, which is their job, so I'm not having a go at them, their job to try and get a different answer. Then they can say, oh, these 2 organisations are doing this, they're having a fight. And that's what they want. So we've got to make sure that we're on the same page and we come with the same messaging and not be led by outsiders. So and there's more. We've got the 2 major peak bodies, but every time someone doesn't like the PGA or WAF, they'll start their own little organisation and call it something else. So again, that message, that voice goes out like this. So we've got to make sure the rhetoric question is how do we get a unified voice and get the message across that we are a fantastic, complicated, sophisticated, lifestyle-oriented industry. And so that was your original question. So then from the regional points of view, we can have a single voice because we don't have the votes. There's no doubt about that. We don't have the votes, so how do we do it otherwise?
And the politics plays up in terms of, from a presentation point of view, there's only 1 or 2 parties, political parties you might align with if you are in the region. So how do you get representation in terms of more meaningful, have more options on representation from politics?
You've got to work with whoever's in power. That's coming from the local government experience. So whoever's there, you've got to figure out the way, manage your boss, which you and I have done. So sometimes manage your boss. So it's outside what you're asking, but can you plant an idea with whichever political party's in power, so it becomes their idea and then it flows out. So the other way is one of the parties tried to do it at the last federal election. They've started moving into the outer regions of the city, so then trying to increase the voice. So you try and become a voice for all West Australians. But and it's off topic to what you said, but you do need a viable and vibrant opposition, regardless of which party's in power.
And also you need to have more options for you to pick and choose on, whether you are in the city or in the regions. If you have only one option to choose on, then probably that option will become more lazy with time.
Yep.
That's natural.
Yeah, that's natural.
Yeah.
So you need a good opposition. So you need marginal seats. Because in reality, that's where the attention gets focused. we know that.
Yes. Your work with the local government, could you elaborate on that? And how do you see local government working in the, suburbia versus, outer regions?
Yeah, so there's two parts of it. So I'm Shire President of Northam. So that's you looking after your local shire, and I'm also on WALGA. That's West Australian Local Government Association. I'm on that board, and you probably wouldn't know because it's only happened in the last few days. Is I'm now State Deputy President. So for that, so to answer your question is, so with WALGA every 4 years, you'll have a state president. And at the moment, the rotation is the state president has to come from the metro area. So hence, I'm the deputy state president because the deputy president comes from the regional area. So we've always got a united voice. So we always work together. So getting a voice with WALGA, that's the peak body.
Yeah.
And that's the lobby body, or whichever way you want to look at it. But we represent all 139 local governments. So it's through that body that we're the ones that we get a united voice, because a united voice is better than one voice, and we can talk to whichever political party, whichever industry body, whoever we need to represent all local governments. And we're the closest level of government to the people. Everyone says that. Because if there's any issue, they're going to turn up at our local council chambers and voice their opinion.
Yeah. And what are the bigger top three challenges and topics you're focusing on in terms of as local government across Australia, WA?
Housing will always be there. Housing, that's a problem right across metro and city. A topic, maybe not an issue, is renewables, because that's a renew one, and that's both city and country. So renewables, so there's a lot in that space, so we're dealing with that. And the other one is cost of living. So we're dealing with. When we do every 2 years, every council does it. They'll do a community survey to see what the top issues are. Those three will be there. The environment will be there sometimes, and community safety. But as an industry, the three I mentioned are probably the three big ones that the community wants us to tackle at the moment.
But how can a local council impact cost of living, housing, probably housing at some level? The third one was the renewables.
Renewables.
How
So with renewables, there's just a paper that was put out by the state government last week. So we will obviously be commenting on that. And if it's good, we'll be working with all parties to make sure, because it's about community benefit funds. So we're making sure that the local governments that have the renewables in there, they'll get the best return for their local community. So which helps. So then you can do more, you've got more. So as a united voice with housing, I mean, you did say that, but we can still work on every which way as possible to increase housing availability. Or
land availability.
Or look at our local planning policies. So how can you get more? We've got to work with the Water Corporation about sewerage infill, because that's not a high priority. So that can open up areas of developed land already, but you're not getting more sewerage availability there. So I'm putting that simplistically, but that's what it is. So there's other ways we can do it just from land availability. There's other options. So we've got to look at all options available. Cost of living. We will still work with local governments. So a simple way of that is to create more local jobs, so then people don't have to travel, so they don't have as much fuel expense. For some of the areas, it could be more public transport, so that's cheaper to run. So just on different ways to do with that. And a very simple one, which you'd see at every council meeting, the ratepayers, don't lift our rates too much. So be financially prudent with our budgets, so the rates aren't going up too much. So there's simple ways like that.
And do you think in terms of the whole 139 councils will have their own structure of corporate, the CEO, CFO, and the whole lot of running as in corporate, and then there can be parallels between across these organizations, 139, and then do you think there can be efficiencies in terms of the admin work or repetition of the same work because there are similar activities and tools being used across on the expenditures?
Yeah, there is some activity in that already. So you've already got some resource sharing between councils. So especially some of the smaller ones. So what they'll do is they'll have a position that's created that runs across 2 or 3 councils. So you'll see that already. And I think that'll be a natural progression because there's more and more compliance, if I use that word, for local government CEOs, especially the ones from the Band 4. So Band 1s are the biggest councils, Band 4s are the smallest ones, just to put it in context. The Band 4s, they've got a lot of pressure on them, so you'll see it naturally. It'll be a natural progression. They'll resource share, and they'll do more and more of that. So, and I think that's a natural progression, and I think that's the best way because if they decide to do it themselves, it's better than being told that they have to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's better to collaborate, and then because eventually you won't pass those costs to the ratepayers in the end.
Yep, that's right. So the more efficient you can be, the better it is.
What's the maths behind every year saying, oh, we want to increase the rates? So do you go CPI, and how do you think about it running?
There's a local government CPI index, so you'll base that off there. But a lot of the time, it's our costs, our input costs have gone up. So if we want to offer the same services, we have to increase the rates just to provide the same services, let alone any more. So and it is a CPI, but it's a special local government one. So generally that will be there.
So it stays standard across all local governments?
Yeah,
or
so it's West Australia.
So WA.
But every local government can choose to set their own rates.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the idea is, and you and I know this from a finance background. If we make it 0 this year and we make it 0 next year, then you're going to have to play catch up at some stage.
Somebody has to pay for it.
Someone has to pay for it. So sometimes it's better just to, if you are going to do it, just do it incrementally, slowly, and that's how you've got to do it. Because we still run an organisation and our import costs are going up. And the community expects a lot from us. And they should. But we've got to make sure we do it efficiently.
What's the influence of state politics or federal politics into local government?
From a regional point of view, you mean like the nominees and the makeup of the councillors?
And in terms of political parties putting their people to run for council elections, and
it's quite interesting because in the regional councils, that's not in WA. It's probably the only state that I know of that doesn't have that impact. It's not a major. In the city councils, I believe there's some. But I haven't seen it being overt like Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria. So we know it's there. So
that's what I was asking.
It is there, but I don't think it's
overtly there.
Yeah. And like
but when you see the volunteers, they're wearing the red t-shirts or the blue t-shirts. You can see the volunteers,
and they'll push it. But I think we've got, for want of a better word, we've got a collegiate approach. We're all there for local government, and you're all there for the best. And I have heard rumours of the 2 major metro political parties that at local government level, quite often they'll work together and you wouldn't expect them. So you have that colour working with that colour for a common result. And that's what you want to see. So I can't say it's going to be like that forever, but that's how I see it at the moment.
From a point of view, because we don't have compulsory voting for council elections.
We don't have,
compulsory voting for council elections. For council elections, we don't have compulsory voting.
Compulsory.
Compulsory, yeah.
That's coming. That's on the agenda at the moment with the state government.
Yeah, and how do you see that playing up in terms of if we go compulsory voting for council elections, how would it change the outcomes on the other end?
It's an interesting one because I'll use the word because the politicians used it at the last election. I'm agnostic about whether we should have compulsory voting or not. But what it would do, it will change it because at the moment there's a lot of apathy. The people don't want to vote, especially when we had 3 elections in 1 year. They don't want to vote again. So they don't have to. So you'll get a 25% turnout, a 30% turnout.
Last year we had March, May and October.
Yeah. And if there's not a major issue at your local government, people don't vote. Which is, I shouldn't say apathy because they're happy with what's going on. So why should they vote? That's what they think. So it's a little bit left of apathy. And then you get the apathetic one saying, I don't care.
But do you think at that low level of involvement by the local electors, is local government representative in theory?
Well,
of the
that's a
people?
lot of criticism we've got. So on the other side, if you've got compulsory voting, that can't be an argument anymore. Because if there's compulsory voting, everyone has to have a piece of skin in the game, and they have to vote. So you can't say you're not representing me or you're not representing me.
Yeah.
It's who the whole public chose.
Yeah.
So I can see the benefits of that. Then they have to get what it is. On the contrary side, you asked the question before. The belief, especially in the city, will be is that it will become more political.
Yeah, it will become political. I think so.
And I don't know about the regional councils. Maybe not the bigger ones. Maybe, but it will change the makeup of it.
But do you think that's good for democracy or functioning democracy or not?
It's a hard one because at one stage you've got people now saying, well, not many people voted, so you don't represent us. And then you'll get on the other side, now it's compulsory. Oh, but only the major political parties can get in. But on this side, it'll be a one with an interest in a certain subject can get in, and on compulsory voting they can't. So you've got to have people argue each way. So there's no easy answer for that. But I think if there was compulsory voting, that has to be who the people choose.
Yeah. I think that's a fair way, because if we are, choosing, making decisions at local level, and that's the most closest to the people in terms of decision making, it should be represented in some way or form.
That's exactly right.
It should be closest to the representing.
And that's why I'm sort of agnostic. If we've got it, we've got it. If the state government imposes it, then the state government imposes it. We don't have a choice.
Then we'll have a 2-year election cycle. Every 2 years there's elections.
Well, that's the other thing they're doing. They're toying with the idea of having all in, all out every 4 years.
Okay.
But the local government, Walga's position on that, based on 139 governments, is no, we want half every 2 years. Because then you get continuity.
So how far is that decision?
I'm sure it'll be made. We've got an election next year. I'm sure it'll be made before then.
Okay.
Yeah, October 27, we've got the next election.
Wow. And that'll be very interesting to see 139 election local councils going on to a full compulsory voting model.
It'll be very interesting. So, because the WA Electoral Commission runs our elections, so that'd put pressure on their resources. So from a different point of view, so it would be interesting to see.
Yes. Could you also talk a bit more on the country and the city divide of what do you see in terms of what people don't understand about the regions and what regions don't understand about the city, both ways?
Yeah, it does go both ways. I think that Darling Range is a problem. We always joke about that. People don't know. They don't think there's anything over the Darling Range. Coming from the country, I can say that's my job. It's funny because when I was young, and probably the generation before me, everyone in the city had a cousin, auntie, uncle, someone who lived in the country, so they could go back to the farm for visits. So you just had that connection. It is there. So the best thing we can do is, like I said before about having a united voice, is we can still just communicate, just talk to each other, have podcasts like this where we can we're all people. We're all, if you wear pants, we all put on our pants one leg at a time. So we're all the same. And you're going to think about that one. Everyone's going to think about that one.
Can I try 2 leg at a time?
Most people will do that.
I've not done that.
Is there anyone on the podcast that'll try that? But we're all the same. So let's keep the communications open. Let's make sure, like from the tourism point of view, let's all holiday within our own state. So we get to know everyone, and we keep talking. So if we've got a positive communication, we've got the communication channels open, then we keep doing it. It's all we can do is we can just move forward. There will be a divide. So the question is, how do we make sure we educate everyone about it?
The divide became very apparent through the Keep the Sheep campaign.
Yes.
And when there was rally, all the trucks came to the city. It became very, very much clear the divide was visible. So how did you see that campaign being run? The impacts and what's future looking for that campaign?
I think the ladies and gentlemen who ran that were extremely efficient, and they were very, very good, and they were very respectful. When you've got a rally like that, it's normally out of desperation, and it was out of desperation because we were influenced by inner city Sydney electorates for that because it was a federal decision, and we don't want that to happen. So you do it, but they were very respectful, and generally, from what I believe, most of the public didn't understand the circumstances of it. The ones who were against the live export didn't understand it, but the people who supported, there was a lot of support, a lot of city country support for it all up. So it's not about the issue itself, it's about the desperation of having to do that. So how do we stop getting in that position again? And a bit of a rhetoric question, so how do we get the political influence? Because it became a political decision, not an economic one. So question is, how do we get that political influence to make sure? So how do we get our united voice up? How do we get together? How do we influence the decision makers on that, from that? We've just got to keep up the communication. Again, we are not a good industry at telling ourselves. A lot of the media you'll see, and everyone's at fault here, this is not having to go at the media people, we're all at fault here, oh, poor farmers, oh, they've got a bad season, oh, it's not good. Why not tell that positive story? We are professional, articulate, professional, use that word twice, businesses out there operating in a very complex society. And if you're putting it simply, we're helping feed the world. So why not tell that story? Because you're a professional yourself, and I respect that. So why don't we sell the story of all those professional, successful businesses out in regional areas? Why don't we sell that story all the time? Why don't we celebrate our success? And that's a story we tell. Forget the tall poppy syndrome that we've got in Australia, which we tend to have, is why don't we tell that story all the time and consistently and regularly so people believe and they know what we are, and then we've got a good united voice. So that's part of it.
What lessons, because you have run a profitable or financially viable business, what are the lessons to be learned for all other sectors as well, running a business? What top 3 lessons would you want to share from running
you sound like the young guy that does the podcast in the US who interviews all the billionaires and millionaires. You're asking, I'm not quite in that league.
Still.
Be consistent. That's one of them. So you asked for a couple. Be consistent, be genuine. So consistent, genuine. So consistent is looking after the long term. Genuine is the way that you compose yourself, and you're genuine and honest the whole time. And the other one is support everyone who supports you. So from our point of view, we've got a lot of local businesses. Support them, support everyone, because in the country, you support a local business, they'll support your sporting club. So the sporting club will keep going, that'll keep the kids off the streets, that'll keep them active. So it's a small circular economy, and that goes for all the suburbs as well, because you've got a lot of local businesses. So you've got consistency, longevity, I forgot the thing I said, and being local. So for the guy, Hard Knocks, School of Hard Knocks, if you ever see this, come and interview me. I'm not in your millionaire, billionaire area. Have you seen that podcast out of interest?
I think that young man goes around, go around asking people who are driving big cars. That's the one.
And I actually watched that it comes up. It comes up occasionally, but it's interesting to see what they say.
Yeah, it's very interesting. In keeping in that spirit, if you can also share some key thoughts with the young farmers who are upcoming and then taking a decision in the families. Should I join the family farm, or should I go to the city and then finish my degree and then do a corporate job? So what would you want to give your wisdom?
I would say go work for someone else. Work for someone else, because I can tell you now, mum and dad are not the worst people in the world. I say this all the time. And if you work for someone else, you'll come across good bosses and you'll come across bad bosses. So you can learn from both. Always be prepared to do that. Always continue to educate. Now, educate doesn't necessarily mean a degree, but always continue to learn. Never, the day you stop learning is the day you start dying. And I'll say that's one of my mantras. So you're always learning. At my age, I'm still learning every day, and I love doing it. So you've always got that. And for the young people, get a mentor. So get a mentor. It doesn't have to be in your own industry. It can be somewhere else. Someone you can bounce ideas off, and stick with winners. So don't stick with people who suck the life out of you. Stick with someone who wins, and they can be a mentor. And be creative with your mentors. That can be anyone, and you can be my age and have a mentor. I bounce ideas off everyone, and I love seeing people being successful. I pick on the young people, but anyone can be successful in life, and I think that's good. They're a winner in some way, so I'm going to stick by them and going to learn off them. And the other one for the young people, I know you only asked for a couple, but I'm giving you one extra,
Please
a bonus one, is celebrate our industry. Because the young people, I look at this, look at the camera, you are our future. So if you start telling that good story, you're going to start doing it now. Agriculture and agribusiness in all the regional areas is a very successful and dynamic place to be and live. Tell that story and keep telling it, and you'll tell the world how good we are, and we will get our message out there, and we'll keep on that track. You are young, professional, you're good at sports. Unfortunately for me, they're all younger and healthier and fitter, but keep at it and keep telling our story. We are a great part of our society. There are lots of good parts. That's not knocking Metro. I'm just focusing on regional and agri. Let's focus on ours and tell that story. You have a great future ahead of you. I know this is not the podcast, but you have 6 or 7 jobs for every job, every degree holder. There's 6 or 7 jobs for everyone that comes out in a lot of industries. So agribusiness is not only professional, it's very complex and it's very diverse. So there is a great future ahead of you. So that's where we should be. And I'll go back to that, sell our positive message and keep doing it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Ted.